All right, well, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for a webinar on how to organize a community cleanup. My name is Catherine Reed and I manage our volunteer programs for the Sanitation Foundation.
Awesome. So tonight we're going to go over all aspects of organizing a cleanup in your neighborhood, starting with finding a location, gathering tools, outreach, promotion, some best practices for your cleanups and sharing results. And then we'll also have a little bit of kind of the DSNY perspective as well. All right, so who are we and why are we in the privileged position tonight to be telling you about cleanup? So my name is Julie Raskin. I am the executive director of the Sanitation Foundation. We are the official nonprofit partner of DSNY. Our mission is simple. It's to keep the city clean while also celebrating and supporting the essential sanitation workforce and advancing the department and the city's zero waste agenda. I'm fortunate to be joined here tonight by my colleague at DSNY, Marissa Yanni, who can speak a little bit about her role at the Department of Sanitation.
Hi, my name is Marissa Yanni. I'm a Community Affairs Liaison in the Bureau of Community Affairs for the Department of Sanitation. I'm also the point person for our volunteer cleanup program, very similar to what is done at the Sanitation Foundation. Really excited to be here and to help answer any questions that everyone has.
Great.
Hello, my name is Katie Savage. I am the founder of the Hell's Kitchen Litter Legion. We were founded in June of 2020 in response to the uptick of litter on the streets and sidewalks during the pandemic. I've done a lot to clean up my neighborhood and provide cleanup kits for those who aren't able to join our group cleanups but still want to get the supplies they need to go out and clean up.
Oh, Jahadi, I think you are muted.
I'm very sorry. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. My name is Jahadi James. I am the founder of Straight Outta Brooklyn, a community arts organization based in Brooklyn, New York. We work with youth that are looking for opportunities in employment, and we provide artistic opportunities as well. We provide safe spaces and different workshops and programs for youth in the community. And we use the cleanups as an opportunity to create larger community building opportunities for youth and for elders to come together and kind of create a safer and cleaner neighborhood for everyone. So that's Straight Outta Brooklyn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole DeSantis, and I run the Clean Bushwick Initiative. My organization has been around since 2016, and it was initially started really to address the rampant litter problems that exist in Bushwick and the surrounding areas. And as the years have gone on, we've pivoted some of the focus to really raising awareness and education around how we can reduce our waste to begin with so that we're not creating so much garbage. So a lot of what we're doing now is collaborative work with businesses, schools, other community organizations, both in Bushwick and out of Bushwick. We love collaborative events and education events. A lot of the environmental issues that we're dealing with now really, I think, can be solved by, raising awareness and education. So, and to Jahari's point, I think, cleanups are a really great community building tool. So I'm excited to help other people go down this great path.
Great, thank you all. And Angela, who heads up the Abuela neighborhood maintenance group, is going to be joining us a little bit later on in the webinar. They are based out of Southeast Queens, and we'll just give her an opportunity to give a brief introduction at the end. And then we will also include all the different social media handles and everyone's contact information at the very end of this presentation.
Okay, so to kick it off here, one of the most important starting points when you are going to host a community cleanup is a location. There's different ways to choose a location. Some groups will outreach to their community and ask for suggestions. And once you start this kind of an initiative, you will have people probably reaching out to you requesting areas to be cleaned, but just some bullet points here. Pick an area that you're familiar with, one that you really know that's repeatedly probably getting littered. Find a starting location that has plenty of space to fit all the volunteers. As you start these initiatives, they pretty much do grow over time. So you'll find that your volunteer base does grow as people find out about what you're doing. So, having a wide enough and a large enough area not to block the sidewalk to pedestrians is something to consider. You can be really ambitious when you start these cleanups, but it's always best to start with a shorter route. If time allows, or you have enough volunteers, you can expand the route even during the cleanup itself. But test out starting at a couple of block radius and build from there. And making a map that the volunteers can use ahead of time is really helpful, so that you can stay organized. And people know which way to go.
So some examples of types of routes. The first one is the one-way route. So this is something that you have a different start point and an end point. These are really helpful in commercial corridors. You can adjust the length of the route based on how much litter, since you're just going in a straight line. The issue, though, with the one-way route is, since you are leaving that central meeting location and ending up at another point, you may need to bring any additional supplies you will need with you, so you don't have to go back to the starting point. So this helps if you have a cart or a wagon or something that you can put those additional tools in, so you can carry them with you. And it's also helpful to have the finish spot be your designated bag pickup area. So as you're cleaning and filling up bags, you can be bringing them with you to the end of your route. Next slide. Another example would be doing a loop. With a loop, you're able to start and end at the same location, which is great if you are going to set up a table with additional information or water and snacks for after the cleanup. With that, you probably want to make sure you have someone who can stay at that table the whole time, especially if you have people who may be joining late. They can still go to that meeting location and pick up some supplies and be directed, which way you guys went to meet you along the route. When you're doing a loop route, you want to use the designated bag pickup as the start and end point, since that's where you will be meeting the majority of the time. Also, depending on the size of your loop, you may want to still carry some extra supplies with you. A lot of the bags, depending on the size, some people use household bags or contractor bags. The big green bags from sanitation really hold a lot of trash. So you only want to fill them about halfway, or else they'll get a bit too heavy. So it's always good to have extra supplies with you in case you need them. Next slide. So supplies. The bare minimum that you need are bags and gloves, masks, hand sanitizer, first aid. If you want to get into various tools, trash grabbers are great, dustpans and brooms, shovels, rakes, if you have tree pits or other grassy areas along the sidewalks that you need to clean. If you're not interested in purchasing these tools yourself, DSNY does have a tool loan program, and I'll hand it over to Marissa to explain more about that.
Thank you, Katie. So with the tool loan program, I also call it just our volunteer cleanup program. So if you don't have any of those tools yet, you can come actually through me. It's a pretty easy process. You just fill out an application. Really, you're just saying the name of your group or just your name. Whoever's filling out the application is fine. Just some contact information, specifically a phone number and email is super important. And then where you're going to be doing your cleanup, what your route kind of is, excuse me. And then where you're going to be placing the garbage afterwards, and then how many tools you'll need. So we do give out brooms, rakes, shovels, as well as bags, the plastic bags, and also plastic latex gloves. If you don't need any tools from us, let's say you just want us to pick up the garbage, that's totally fine. You just still need to fill out the application. Excuse me. And we'll still be able to help you. So definitely not a problem. We'll still make sure that that garbage is picked up as close as possible to the end of your cleanup. I do want to flag that depending on when your cleanup ends in the day, we won't be coming at the exact moment that your cleanup ends. If you end at 3 o'clock, that's actually in between 2 shifts. So it won't be picked up till, let's say, the 4 p.m. to midnight shift. So just to keep that in mind, even if you don't see us the second you're done, leave it where you said that it's going to be, and we're still going to come pick it up. So you don't need to worry. Some folks call me because they get nervous, but totally fine. So we'll be able to pick up the garbage from you and give you any tools that you need. Just note that you will have to pick up the tools from one of our lot cleaning offices. There is about one in each borough, except in the Bronx. Thank you.
And in addition to the DSNY tool loan program, the Sanitation Foundation is piloting a new grant program. So well, the tools through the tool loan program are an excellent resource, and you'll be able to have a lot of tools that supplement and are different than what are available in these micro grants. We wanted to be able to offer something to organizers that can really be something that you have in your own possession. And so we are developing a program right now that is going to be available on a rolling basis starting today. So if you are either a new organizer or someone that has done this for years and you need to replenish your supply, we have tools for you. So with this grant program, you'll get the options that are listed right under this, what the starter kits include, which will be litter pickers, and those aren't typically available through the tool loan program. We won't be offering some of the tools that Marissa said through this program initially, but that's where those kind of really complement each other well. But we'll give you reusable gloves, trash bags, a scale so that you're able to weigh the trash that you pick up. You know, we typically will ask that groups will count bags, but if you have the scale, it allows you to give some more in-depth data collection. And then of course, a first aid kit as well. The reporting requirements for this type of grant are going to be pretty simple. We had conducted some focus groups. Maybe some of you had attended those focus groups back in February of this year. And we really found that a lot of existing community cleanup groups, one of the biggest barriers they face is that not being a 501c3 nonprofit, it makes it difficult for them to be able to apply for grant funding. And so we wanted to make sure that we were offering opportunities for these types of folks to be able to get access to the tools they need to host these events that are making a huge community impact. So that's really where this grant program starts out. And we, hope to offer some additional grants throughout the year that will allow you to do some more picking and choosing of the tools that you may need. But this is a great way to get started. So with the tool and application, the tool micro grant application, it's fairly simple. We will put the link, make that available at the end, and it will be available on our website as well, right near the webinar recording. So if you need to go back and rewatch this section, can do that in conjunction with each other. But we're just asking groups to commit to hosting 3 events in the first year if they receive this grant. And then before each volunteer event that you host, we would ask you to fill out the application that Marissa just went over, and that alerts DSNY to the fact that you're having an event, even if you're not borrowing tools from them specifically. That helps them know where to pick up the bags from a community cleanup event. So we just ask that you host those events, that you fill out that form, and then just after each event that you host, we have a simple survey that just allows you to input the number of pounds you picked up, the number of volunteers that attended your events, and where the event was located. And then if you do have any event photos you want to share with us, we would definitely welcome those. We love to share those on our social media. We're happy to tag you in them. So it's a fairly simple process and really allows you to jump in and get started with planning your own events. If you have any additional questions about that, we're happy to answer those and go into more depth at the end. But like I said, this will be available on our websites, and the application will kind of components that you need. The one other per cleanup group. So a group, obviously, is one group. We're going to offer one per 12-month period. So after that 12 months is up, after you've been awarded it, you're obviously welcome to apply again. But that's kind of how we're going to be getting started on this. And of course, as we're piloting it, we welcome any feedback that you have along the way on different things that you feel like maybe needed to add to your starter kit or any other feedback that you have.
So once you have gotten through the first couple steps that was expressed by Katie and Catherine, right? You know your location, you know what kind of tools you need for your cleanup. Now we get to the part where it's probably, one of the most fun parts and one of the most important parts is the community outreach, because you can't have a cleanup without the neighborhood and the community. Like I said before, one of the important things about the cleanup is not only cleaning up, is the community building aspect that the cleanups create. So spreading the word about your upcoming event is key. You can create posters, connect with local businesses and community groups, post on social media, and make sure you just put as much information out about your cleanup as possible. I find that the local kind of guerrilla route, with putting posters in your neighborhood is also something that's very effective. Social media, of course, we all are familiar with social media nowadays. So, if you've ever thrown a party or put together any sort of event, it's the same kind of mind frame you want to be in to reach out to as many people as possible, like-minded people that are also maybe in cleanup groups. This is a good time to speak to your block association if you've never, spoke with them, your community board, reach out to them. This is a good time to talk to local businesses that you may have never stopped by, especially if they're along the route that you're cleaning up. It's very important because these are the things that can also help enhance your cleanup, not only by adding people, but by adding resources. So the businesses sometimes can offer tools, they may offer refreshments for the cleanup, so just reaching out to your community can be a great help when you're planning your cleanup. So the outreach part is very, very essential. And then once you get into that, it just blends itself into the promoting part of the event. Like I said, if you've ever done an event, if you're doing a large event, you want to give yourself enough time. So 3 to 4 weeks, we say is a good amount of time to start promoting and build interest. If you're doing a small event, once you've gauged how many people are interested and if you're going to have, a large crowd or a smaller crowd, you can kind of just, manage it that way. But for smaller events, we think 2 weeks is good to start letting people know that, the event is set, you have the time, the date, and location and everything. We have an example of a Google form, basic Google form to just keep a list of all the volunteers. It's always good to track the volunteers that come, to just keep data on, how many people are showing up. And there's different websites like humbler.co that you can use to manage your signups and connect with the people after the cleanup. So, if you're doing something continuously in your neighborhood, you want to make sure you have a database of people's information so you can always connect with them for your next cleanup. And, you can share information, share pictures, and connect through social media and stuff like that. So the community outreach and the promoting aspect is definitely an important part of it. And I know Katie's going to say a little bit more about that.
All right, so like Jihadi said, with the promoting, it's really great to have the sign up also so you have an idea of how many people to expect, and if you need to acquire more tools, you are able to do that. We also have a few best practices for planning your events. So you want to keep your event to about 1.5 to 2 hours, including opening remarks and wrap up. You could start and you could have people who would just go for hours, but also be mindful that you may have some children and families. So the 2-hour mark really seems to be a good sweet spot for the cleanups. And also when inviting children, just make sure that they're accompanied by a parent or guardian, so that there's someone who's able to watch them at all times, just to make sure that they are safe and not, grabbing stuff that they shouldn't be or getting too close to the street. Another good thing is to designate a meetup time and location for afterwards, just in case people wander off the route. It's very easy to kind of get mesmerized by the trash and just keep walking. And next thing you know, you look around you and the rest of the group is gone. So this is what's really helpful about having a designated spot and time for people to go back to just in case that they do wander off. As you know, we're in the summer right now, so it's very hot. Ideal time to organize a cleanup now would be more in the morning, probably like from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. As you get more into the fall and winter, you can definitely do more afternoons. When I did cleanups in the winter, we kind of shifted it more to like 3 o'clock so we could be at like the warmest part of the day. So just be mindful of some of those things and weather, and always look at the forecast. If you are planning a very large event, you may want to schedule a rain date as well, just in case. If it's something a little smaller and informal, it's good to have people's information in case you do need to cancel because of rain. And as I mentioned before, make sure the bags don't get too heavy. You may also want to consider having a runner as part of your crew that will just be responsible for moving those bags to the designated bag pickup area. And this person can also assist in weighing the bags. What's helpful with the luggage scale is you're able to just hang the bags right on it, and it beeps once it captures the weight. You can snap a picture with your phone, and at the end of the cleanup, just go through those pictures and add up all of the amounts. And Marissa will offer some more safety guidelines for your cleanup.
Great, thank you. Definitely thinking about what to wear. It's a lot of walking. Please wear the most comfortable shoes that you can think of. And definitely, depending on how hot or how cold it is, shorts are always helpful, and hats and sunscreen for sure, just so that you're going to be outside for a while and you don't want to have all of that sun on top of you. Thinking about safety, if some people there might be medians where you are, so don't just walk in the middle of the street and trying to get garbage that's on a median or something like that, like on Eastern Parkway or something. You want to just be as safe as possible. Also, if there's kids around, if there's children around, just make sure they're always with an adult, just to make sure that no one just walks into the middle of the street or into a scary situation. Look out for dangerous items. I know a lot of people have seen needles in the streets as well. If you see those, you don't need to pick those up. Please call 311. We have a squad, a unit that actually goes out and does walks as well as removes all needles, but the main way they receive those reports is through 311. That just happens to be, it definitely does go to them. I know some people are wary of that 311, but it does go to them and they'll take care of that for you. So if you see it, just be as specific as possible to where the location is, or if you want to write it down and then afterwards go on the 311 app and note it, and then we'll come out in the next 48 hours to remove those syringes or needles or anything like that you see. We just don't want anyone getting punctured, or if there's some material or some liquid still on it, we just don't want anyone to get hurt as well. Waste disposal, when your bags are full, just make sure that you tie them as tight as possible and leave them in that designated area where you said that you're going to pick them up, you said that we can come pick them up. You're allowed to choose 3 locations on the application, and if you choose maybe one more, it's fine, I'll let it go. But you could choose up to 3 locations. So if you're doing like 3 blocks, those 3 intersections, those can be your drop-off location. So you can keep dropping off, get another bag, and keep moving. So even if you have a lot on each corner, it's fine because they do get heavy and they're not, it's not like a contractor bag where they're extremely, extremely thick. You just want to make sure all your hard work doesn't end up in front of your feet, spilling out from what you did before. Yeah, thank you.
All right, so then when it comes to sharing your results, for your own tracking purposes, it's really helpful to get a good count of the bags and the number of volunteers that attend. A lot of the forms and different types of tracking tools that were talked about earlier are excellent ways to do that. When you have a volunteer sign up, you get a sense of the number of volunteers that attend, also in comparison to those that maybe signed up for events. When we're hosting events, we kind of have a sense of the number of people that will volunteer versus sign up, and that helps us, like Katie had mentioned, for our planning with the number of tools that we need. Also track of the number of blocks, and the pounds of litter collected are excellent for your own tracking, but then also we use that data to be able to report back both to the Department of Sanitation and then also to try to do additional fundraising for grant programs and other programming like this. When you are done with a cleanup, you can fill out the form I mentioned below or before, and we will be posting that on our websites. What we typically do after a cleanup is that we create volunteer impact reports as well. And we find that to be a really meaningful way to share out with volunteers what they had done or accomplished that day. So with our volunteer impact reports, what we'll just typically do is find a couple of photos from the day, a group photo, maybe a few more action shots, and put those in a document. You know, Canva is a great free tool to utilize to be able to create those types of graphics. And it's very user friendly. Or you could do that in, a Word document, whatever that may be, or even just an email, and then listing out a couple of bullet points about the impact of that day, saying, you collected this many pounds of litter or this many bags of litter. We had this many volunteers, and, per volunteer, you can break that down pretty easily, number of pounds per hour, things like that. And we just find that that's a really impactful way to be able to share that data, both with volunteers, but then it's also very helpful on our end for tracking, as well as on the end of the Department of Sanitation. So when you do fill it out, the tool loan application that Marissa had spoken about, the department does capture that data through the number of bags that they collect at the end. However, when you complete the form that we are going to be requiring for the grant, but then also too, you're welcome to fill it out on your own accord. That's really helpful on our end too, to just get a sense of what the scope of community work that's being done throughout the city. And before we move on, I just want to give some of the organizers who are doing this work, day in and day out, a chance to offer any other tips that they think would be helpful or best practices, if there are any things that we maybe missed so far. And if not, that's totally fine too.
I would just say, as far as when you're organizing and you're executing the cleanup, remember it's always good to keep in mind to keep it fun. So whatever you can do to make it enjoyable for yourselves within that hour or 2 hour that you're out there. Music is always great. Refreshments. Another great part of the outreach process when you reach out to local businesses and stuff, like I said, people may offer you, waters. I've had cleanups where businesses have provided food and different, entertainment, and just they may even give you money and donations. So you can use a lot of the resources from your community to make the event not just, this thing where we're cleaning the streets, but it's more of a community type of event where you're having and you're kind of enjoying the time that you're out there. So music, food, I would just say, and enjoy yourself as much as possible.
And I noticed, someone got it. Canva is the place to make the recaps. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like Photoshop, but easier, like a marketing tool. It's been life-changing for me for making cleanup graphics. It's really easy to do, and it just adds like an extra level of polish and fun. You can go crazy with all sorts of like little graphics and different things to really be eye-catching and stand out.
Great, thank you. All right, so then we are going to just jump into a couple of additional resources that will be helpful to consider when you're planning your event. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Katie.
All right, so reaching out to your city council office and community board is super helpful with this. Community boards are often your best way to get connected with other community groups in your neighborhood. They're kind of the space that keeps track of all the various block associations. They often have newsletters that they can add your event into. And your community board does do a lot in regards to helping to push budget priorities for the upcoming year. So you're able to, work with them. And if you, notice areas or things that you think could use a little bit more attention. It's a great way to engage and get more things. City council, it would be great to, invite your city council member. They also have a lot of discretionary funding and ability to, help support your events or potentially help, expand your events and co-host with you. And again, just an additional resource to get more visibility and, work with them on bettering your community overall. And Marissa has some additional resources from the DSNY side.
So a couple of more resources for you all. Like I said, is our DSNY school loan program that you can just email us at our customer service email that here on the slide, and we'll be able to send that application to you. And then you'll be able to fill it out. And every time you have a cleanup, just let us know. That way we can come pick up the garbage afterwards. That's the most important thing, even if you're gonna have the tools from somewhere else, just to make sure that we can pick up the garbage afterwards so it just doesn't sit there. And you could also use that email just for any other questions that you may have. Filing a 311 complaint is always really important. If you see something out there while you're out, you might see somebody have dumped a large mattress or some furniture just sitting on the corner. Probably won't be able to pick that up yourselves, let's say, unless everyone wants to touch it. So you just file a 311 report, and then we'll be able to go back out there and pick that up. That way you don't have to do all that heavy lugging. Donate NYC. So if you have any clothes or household items that are still in really good condition and you don't want to throw them out, you can actually go on our Donate NYC website, and there's all sorts of different organizations out there that will actually take this material from you. You can just drop it off. I think a few places may even pick it up from you depending on what the item is. But go on there, it's a really great resource. You'll be able to find some organizations that are really local to you. Within 5 minutes, you'll be able to get rid of all that clutter in your house. Also, our food scrap drop-off sites are really important for some folks that don't have composting, curbside composting, in their district. Definitely look up where your food scrap drop-off site is. Sorry, bit of a tongue twister, that one. See where the site is. Not all of them are open every single day, so just make sure you check the website and see which one is near you or near where your office is or wherever you normally are, and then you'll be able to just drop off your food scraps and just see what specific material they take. Some places don't take dairy, some places do, so just be mindful of that when you go on the website. Next slide. And a couple of FAQs for DSNY, just some things that have come up in the past. So who's responsible for cleaning the sidewalks at DSNY? That's actually the responsibility of property owners. They are to clean the sidewalk and then 18 inches into the streets. How much garbage does DSNY collect in one day? We collect about 12,000 tons of refuse and recycling a day. That's about 24 million pounds, which is pretty incredible. And now with the new expansion in Queens, hope to also increase our compost collection as well, which is really exciting. Do we collect all of NYC's trash and recycling? No, we only collect from residential and institutional garbage and recycling. This also includes public schools and NYCHA developments. We do not collect from commercial businesses, really any business at all for the most part. That's all done by private carters. Where does the recycling go? All of NYC's recycling, well, our plastic, metal, glass, and cartons, that all goes to Sims Municipal, which is in Brooklyn, like Industry City, but Sunset Park area. And that's where it's all sorted by the type that it is. It's actually really interesting. You can done a tour there once. And also our paper and cardboard goes to Pratt on Staten Island.
Great, thank you so much. All right, so as we're getting into questions, just to give people a little bit more time to put any questions in the Q&A function, we do have a poll because we're very curious to hear about how you both heard about this webinar, but then also if you've participated in cleanups before. And then while you're also completing this poll, just feel free to put any questions you may have up in that Q&A section, like I'd mentioned. All right, so we got a good amount of folks that have both either participated or have not before, so that's great to see. All right. We'll give it just one more moment. And then Julie, I may have you start reading out a couple of the Q&A questions,
Yeah,
and I'll try to pull
sure.
them up on my end as well. Great, thank you so much.
I'm just gonna scan the chat too to see if there were any in there.
Perfect, okay.
Okay, we discussed Canva is the software that you can use to make graphics. And somebody asked about the links in the deck. We're going to share out all of the relevant links and make this, this presentation will be recorded and available. And I think we'll make the slides available too, but at the very least, we will for sure make all the links available.
Yes, for sure.
Shifting to
And we'll send a recap email as well to this group.
So I'm going to read questions that Marissa actually answered in the chat, just for those who might not have seen it first, and then we'll go to unanswered questions. So first, somebody asked, how many people do you need in order to do a tool loan program? Can it be family organized or building organized? And Marissa said, yes, the number of people does not matter. It can be as few as 3 volunteers or as many as 30, or even more than that. And I think that was the answered one. All right. So starting at the top, this question is for Marissa at DSNY. How do we sponsor the trash can for our block?
I just had a follow-up for that. So when you say sponsor the trash can, do you mean to adopt it and be able to put the liners in the can and then switch them out? Or do you mean you want to buy a corner trash can? I don't know who, I know there was an anonymous.
I think if you could speak to both, it would be helpful. So just for context, DSNY operates various different programs to help keep your block clean. So one is where Marissa can go into both, but you can adopt a basket. That sounds like that's what this person is asking about. And then council members can also sponsor a basket. But yeah, if you could just speak to both, that would be great.
Yeah, no problem. So for the Adopt a Basket program, that's where there is an existing corner basket already. That is the mesh, the green ones, the regular ones that we always have out. So that is where someone will adopt it, and we will give you plastic gloves as well as garbage bags. So there will be a bag inside the corner basket, the bin. And then when you see that it's getting full, you actually just switch it out. So you empty that liner, put it right next to the garbage can, and then just put another garbage bag inside. And then when we come to service the baskets, we will take away not only the bag that you left, and we will also empty the basket that's there. So it helps in between collection services for the corner baskets. Our sponsor a basket program is where not only elected officials and organizations, but individuals can as well. You can actually buy a higher end basket. So those are normally what you've probably seen is like the silver ones with the doors, and it has like a smaller hole on the top. While if you see the green mesh ones, it's just the whole thing is basically open. That's where you can pay for one of those, and you can actually put on there, let's say your organization's logo. You can put a little message on there, and then everyone will know that you paid for it. And then we will place it on a corner. Normally, it's gonna be on a corner that already has a corner basket. So if it already has a mesh one, we'll take away the mesh one and put the one that you buy. If you want to put one where there is currently no basket, we will just have to do a study to see if it meets our criteria. If it does, then we'll put the basket there. If not, we'll just have to come up with a new place to place the basket. If that doesn't answer your question, do let me know.
Great. And I will continue with the Q&A questions, and there are some more in the chat, but if everyone could put all their questions in the Q&A, that would be helpful. Okay. And then I think this is probably also for Marissa, but I'll speak to it a little bit. Somebody asked, can I plan a cleanup on a highway in my community? We really advise, I guess, safety first. So if you can identify an area that is easily accessible by foot, for example, I know on like the West Side Highway, there are some medians that are, sort of part of the sidewalk. I think that's one thing, but I would have some hesitation about going into some of those like on-ramp areas, which I know it's a frustrating because those are very dirty and littered, and that's sort of an issue, you know, where there's some gray area between sanitation department and Department of Transportation and parks. So I'm sorry, I'm not giving you a super concrete answer, but I might just stay away from it just to prioritize safety of your volunteers. But I'll also let Marissa or any of the associates speak to that as well.
I would not go on a highway. Again, like we're saying, like we consider the West Side Highway to be a highway, but for the most part, that's more of just a really larger street. That's different, but if you want to do the Belt Parkway, probably not ideal, but again, depends on maybe exactly where you are. If you fill out your application and you want to do a highway, I would just say, let's chat about it first and see specifically where it is. But otherwise, I would warn against that because that doesn't seem very safe. And I think also technical DOT also cleans highways technically. And we do part of the on-ramps at sanitation. So that also kind of falls under someone else's jurisdiction, just to keep that in mind as well.
This is a similar question. Do particular types of locations require additional considerations? For example, would cleanups of open areas adjacent to the BQE or other highways require added safety measures or approvals? I think we answered that, and I just would certainly say, you know, just stay away from that, especially at the beginning. I think that's something you should certainly, if you notice dirty areas, call 311 about. Especially if there's kind of a concentration or consistency there. But I would advise against bringing out volunteers. Okay. This next question sounds like for Jihadi. I would love involving local businesses who would benefit from cleaner streets too. How do we handle donations if we get them locally within our group, or report it to DSNY and work with them to handle it formally? Jihadi, if you want to speak to that, or if any of the associates, I know Katie, you've done stuff with ice cream as rewards and very creative things, so you can speak to that.
Yeah.
I can
So yes, involving local businesses definitely is beneficial. And as far as donations, from my experience, what I've done, because I've done cleanups in different ways where I've had youth and I've maybe given them like 20, 30 bucks or whatever as a group. So it depends. I would say use it to your discretion. I mean, maybe the donations can be kept. Maybe if you're a block association, the donation can go towards the block association. Maybe, you know, it can be used for your next cleanup to get supplies or something like that. Maybe it can be used for refreshments after the cleanup is done. So I think, you know, things like donations can be used to your best discretion. You know, you just figure out the best way to apply it. And, you know, refreshments are always a good, you know, if everyone can get a bite to eat, a hot dog or something like that after the cleanup, you know, that's the best way, I think, to utilize, you know, funds.
Yeah, I agree with what Jihadi said. I would also caution from getting too into soliciting money if you are not a nonprofit organization or you don't have any sort of fiscal sponsorship. Just you don't want to find yourself in the crosshairs of the IRS or anything like that. I find it best if businesses want to help. You know, most businesses have trash bags and gloves. So those are easy things that they can donate to you to help, so you don't have to purchase those supplies yourself. And also, again, refreshments always goes a long way, especially if you can do, you know, after the cleanup, you end near a business, maybe a pizzeria, and they give you 2 or 3 pizzas and some beverages to, you know, thank the volunteers for cleaning up. I think if you focus more on goods than actual cash, it just makes it a bit easier for handling that.
Before we jump into a few more questions, I just wanted to take an opportunity quick to allow Angela to introduce themselves from Abuela Neighborhood Maintenance.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angela Miskis. I've been enjoying listening to all the answers. I actually second what Katie and Jahari has mentioned. When we do get monetary donations are usually from people, like regular people that live in the area and that just feel thankful for the work that we're doing. I keep track of all donations and I usually save them to buy refreshments, such water or like fruits or anything like that for future events. And when it comes to bigger donors like businesses, I also just try to get goods, water, free food, anything that is just that is not really a money exchange, but more just like a thank you gift for the volunteers. And I mostly work in Queens, especially the Southeast Queens area, and I do a lot of work around the Hollis neighborhood in Queens. So thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Okay, I'm going to continue to read some of the Q&A. I think this is probably for Marissa, but everyone probably has some experience to report back on. Do cleanups help with fighting against rats on the block? And can we clean out rats hiding on property?
It definitely does help with rats. I mean, rats, they need a food source. So on some of these commercial areas or side streets, people are just, having their lunch and then they just throw away on the street. The rest of it, if they don't finish it, yeah, that definitely attracts the rats. So it definitely will help just keeping the area clean and tidy. I don't know, DOHMH, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, they are the rat experts. They have their pest control unit. So if you do know that there's rats in a specific location, do report it on 311. They'll send an inspector out and you can actually check the progress on their rat portal. As far as cleaning out rats hiding on the property, not 100% sure, and someone else can speak to this, how that goes. I don't know if you're just going to go looking for them and what you're going to do with them when you find them, but just keep in mind there is a process in place through the city if you don't want to actually touch the rats or get too close to them.
Great. There are a couple of questions in the same vein about whether we know of any locations that really need a community cleanup, or like how can we kind of identify locations that are in high need. Maybe we can have a DSNY answer and a community answer.
I can jump in with the community answer. I would say, you and your neighbors are the best source of information. If there are, areas that you walk around on your way to work, on your way to the food store, anywhere that you are out and about in the neighborhood and you are constantly noticing that there's always an accumulation of trash, that's a good place to clean. I would avoid any areas that have a BID, which is a business improvement district. They're much more prevalent in Manhattan, but there are quite a few in commercial areas in the outer boroughs. Those areas have their own supplemental cleaning workers who go out and clean that area. So depending on the time of day, maybe they've clocked out or it's a little too early or they haven't gotten to that spot. So just kind of be mindful. If you do see people out pushing a trash can and have a dustpan and broom, maybe you don't want to clean up on that area unless you do notice that it's a situation that gets exceptionally dirty. For example, 9th Avenue and Hell's Kitchen, we have one supplemental cleaning worker that handles 15 blocks and he's only there 5 days a week. So it's, there are definitely times when we could go out there and clean up some of that because there's plenty of trash. But if you're maybe more like in the Times Square area or downtown in Soho, they have a lot more staff that are able to tackle that. So you just want to find areas of the most need, areas that, seem to be a bit more neglected, potentially more in a residential area or a less commercial area. Businesses, usually are pretty good, hopefully are pretty good about cleaning up around their spaces because they want to make sure that it's, clean for customers. So going to areas that are a bit more neglected or could be frequent areas for dumping, such as around Metro North train stations or more like warehousey areas. That could be a place where you could really do a lot of good.
Great. This next question is,
Oh, wait,
sorry,
I think,
go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, I think, Angela, do you have something you're gonna add to that?
Yeah, I think I was gonna encourage also people just to start small. When I started just by walking my own block, just like right outside my house, and you'll be surprised the amount of trash you can collect just from like drainage. And if you have like recycling and maybe notice that the very next day a lot of trash is gonna be just like litter around because people don't really properly dispose of their trash. I know it's great to like make a big impact in one area in one go, but don't be afraid to start small. And that's also a really good way if you're just starting out to start building volunteers and maybe get to meet your neighbors and slowly build a group that you can actually take to bigger areas, you know, and make a bigger impact that way. And second again, what Katie said, I personally have adopted the Hollis Long Island Railroad Station. It's very much like a gray area where it's hard to say who is responsible for. So in the meantime, while city agencies are figuring that out, I volunteer my efforts to keep it clean and to kind of stay on top of that area.
And I was just going to add too, so Katie had mentioned sometimes there's the business improvement districts, or what we call like bids. That information about what areas do have bids is available online, and we can share some of that information. There's like a link that you can look at an interactive map, and it may not be 100% accurate, but it should give you a general sense of areas that are covered by bids.
Great. This next question is for the flyers that we make. Should we put the Sanitation Department Foundation or DSNY logo on our graphics? And actually, that's something from the foundation side we would like to get back to you on, and we're working on some templates, like flyer templates and things like that, and some guidance around that in the coming weeks. But Marissa, if you have thoughts on like, if people are using the tools from DSNY, do you generally like them to put the DSNY logo or not? So I know sometimes DSNY can be finicky about logo usage.
Oh, I didn't know we could be finicky.
Sorry.
I personally, as the person who does all the cleanups and the applications, yeah, if you fill out an application with me and I'm gonna at least pick up the garbage and I'm giving you tools, you can put our logo on there. Because we are assisting and we are supporting your cleanup. And if you want everyone to know it, I'm all for it.
And the next question is, do you work with small 501c3 incorporated nonprofits? And yes, the answer for both of us. You know, the Sanitation Foundation will make the tool grant available to 501c3s as well as not incorporated groups, and DSNY does lend tools to all sorts of nonprofits. Where do you return the equipment once completed? I think that's a Marissa question.
You return it where you got it from. If you are in Manhattan or the Bronx, you're going to go to East Harlem to 123rd Street. You're going to pick them up on a Thursday. You're going to drop them off on a Tuesday, and that goes for Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island.
Awesome. And the next question is there a central location to see if there are planned events? I'm in Park Slope and I'd be happy to join a current event, but I'd consider starting an event if one doesn't exist. That's another great question. That's something that the Sanitation Foundation is working on as well, along with the templates, a centralized place on our website to list out community events that are happening. So in the short term, before we have a formalized mechanism in place, if you are organizing an event, we'd love to know and we can put it on our calendar. Marissa, I know, puts all of the events on the DSNY internal calendar. Marissa, is that calendar shared to the public as well?
Yeah, it's on the DSNY website. Yes, all the cleanups are on that page, as long as I put them up there. Yes.
Yeah. So any cleanup, like if you filled out the tool loan application with Marissa, it would go on the DSNY website.
I also want to mention, if you are active on Instagram, there is an account called Nasty New Yorkers. It does a pretty good job of accumulating all the different cleanups that are happening each week and posting about it. So that is another good resource to check to see if there are any existing groups or existing events happening in your neighborhood.
Okay. What if a garbage, okay, so I think these two questions are connected. Can we request that a new litter basket be added? If so, how do you do that? Like if there's not a litter basket on your block, or if you're, you know, near a, in this case, a dog park. I think that's a Marissa question.
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button. Yes, you can request, don't put it on the application for a tool loan. That will not help you at all. But if you have that new customer service email, we'll make sure that gets sent to everybody. If you want to request a basket to be added at a specific location, you know, tell me the exact intersection. And if you do know southeast, you know, northwest corner, that would be awesome. Put that in an email to that customer service email address. We'll send it out for inspection, see if it meets our criteria, and then we'll be able to put a basket in there if it does.
Can I organize a cleanup in a public park? So this is a great question. And this is a funny, I don't know if anyone's watched the TV show Parks and Recreation, but it's like the parks and the libraries are always fighting. I feel like Parks and Sanitation get into that a little bit. It's very, it's a totally different system. And I'm sorry that that's the case for the public because it gets confusing, but Sanitation Department does not oversee cleanups in parks. So like we wouldn't be able to go pick up the bags of litter if you do it in a park, but the Parks Department has a similar program called Partnerships for Parks. And maybe Katie, or if I think Nicole's gone, but I know some of you guys have done cleanups that kind of extend into parks, maybe Angela. So if you want to speak to how you have worked with the Parks Department, that would be great.
Yeah, so what Julie said, parks have their own arm and foundation that is dedicated to the stewardship of all New York City properties, New York City park properties. So if you want to work in a park or you want to maintain a park, like any neighborhood park that is in your area, just go to the city's, I can put it, I don't want to butcher it, I'll put the link in, but you can sign up as a volunteer group, or you can join one of the many events from existing groups that might be maintaining a park in your area. And it works pretty similarly. Once you filled out the application and you become a group, they will bring out the tools for you, and sometimes t-shirts, sometimes PPE, depending on the scale of the project. And that's it. Like you can clean a park as often as you want. And there's a lot, they're offering a lot of great resources and funding for groups that are really dedicated to maintaining their neighborhood parks. I'll put some links now so you can read more about it.
The similar question, but for the subways, can we clean the subways? I don't know if the MTA has a cleanup program. They really should. But similarly, the Sanitation Department wouldn't be able to like go into the subway station and help with that. But I'm sure, I think we will have to come back to that one unless anyone knows off the top of their head.
I have no idea, but I do want to add, you know, in the facts where we talked about how sanitation only collects residential and institutional waste, I think it's really important for the public to understand that anytime you see trash, it doesn't automatically equate to Department of Sanitation's responsibility, as you're finding out. The Parks Department has their own fleet of garbage trucks that are dark green with the Parks logo on the side. They also have some cute little ones that have all the tools stuck to the outside. And the MTA does have their own garbage trucks as well. I saw one in Brooklyn and I was very excited to see it, which is probably strange for most people, but I'm a trash nerd that likes seeing garbage trucks. So it's really interesting how the city overlaps or separates those things. And also, you know, someone had mentioned highways previously. Cleaning up on major highways would fall under the Department of Transportation. So it's a convoluted situation. I would say, you know, if I don't see why not, why you couldn't, if you are doing your own cleanup without any DSNY tools, why you couldn't do it, but you may want to reach out to, you know, the MTA just to get some guidance, and maybe they can start something like that.
How much advance notice is needed to utilize the sanitation tool van for a cleanup? So I think it's sort of a two-part question. So as some of you may have seen, there is a van, the cleanup van. It's bright green. It's a joint initiative with the foundation and DSNY. It's reserved. It's in very high demand, and it's reserved for very large scale cleanups that we do, like the Bronx series that we did together, or certain ones with local elected officials. But it's certainly, when you fill out the application, you can ask for it. It's just you know, we need like 10 more of them. So, you know, keep an eye out for some funders for that. But in terms of the lead time needed to get tools from the sanitation department, from Marissa's team, I think 2 weeks, as I understand, is the minimum, and more than that is great. But Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong.
2 weeks, yes, bare minimum. Anything after that is troublesome. But you can tell me you can tell me you want to do a cleanup 4 months from now. I'd be more than happy to assist you.
Great. Another, let's see, a question sort of for Marissa. Is there a person or program we can utilize that will visit local businesses and talk to them about keeping the sidewalks in front of their location clean without having to rely on 311 or threats of fines? There are colleagues that Marissa has on her team that do just that. Unfortunately, there's not enough of them. We wish that, you know, everyone wishes there were more. But there is kind of outreach and enforcement teams. But I think it is always good to call 311 if you report, just if you see kind of a consistency dirty area, because that can just alert DSNY of kind of where to send those outreach folks. But is there anything else, Marissa, I'm missing on that? Maybe the customer service email as well.
Yeah, if you see, I mean, that's literally the whole point of my unit at the Bureau of Community Affairs, is to do things like that. So just let us know. You can reach out there in that customer service email address. We're all different liaisons for different boroughs. Like I'm the liaison for Manhattan. So let's say you're talking about Manhattan. I'll get that email. We'll figure it out and see when I can go out there and talk to the businesses. It's just all about our scheduling and see when we're not doing 13 other events in a day, if I can go on out and I'll take care of that for you. And I can't I can't issue a ticket, so you don't have to worry about that.
How do we go about cleaning up graffiti? I think that's also a Marissa question.
DSNY does not clean up graffiti. That is through, what are they called? EDC. They have a cleanup graffiti program and they will remove graffiti. NYPD does as well occasionally, but we have no resources to clean graffiti or to paint over graffiti.
That should be something that you could put in a 311 request to EDC. I think it's called Graffiti Free NYC. I know it's a program that they had kind of paused during the pandemic, but it has come back. It's also something that you could potentially bring to the attention of your council member or community board to have them address the appropriate city agency to handle it.
This next question is about sort of unsanitary conditions around NYCHA housing projects and what can people do about that. I would say the best thing to do is just what we said, call 311 to report it, and then also bring it to the attention of your local council member. It sounds like what you're referring to is more substantial, that, you know, something that NYCHA would really have to manage that goes beyond a community cleanup. But being a squeaky wheel can go a long way, complaining a lot to the folks that represent you. This is one of DSNY's favorite questions. What about dogs pooping on the sidewalk? Can we get signs to put out in our neighborhood? Marissa, I'm
Yes.
gonna.
Sorry. Every time I keep losing the unmute button. DSNY does not have a sign shop. We do not make any signs. I have little pamphlets that say that you need to take care of your dog that we give out at all the events that we go to. Happy to help get you that information, but we do not have any signs. If you know that there's an area where you know people keep not picking up after their dog, sorry for the double negative, we have to see it in person, one of our enforcement agents, and then they have to give us their ID in order for us to issue a summons or a ticket. So it's not incredibly easy to get the non-scooper pooper people, but we do our very best. We try to do some blitzes of sorts. We've done that with Councilmember Eric Boucher's office, worked with him to help increase in enforcement. But again, if you're walking your dog, you don't pick it up and you don't give me your ID when I see you do it, you can go about your merry way, unfortunately.
Next question is that this person has identified an area that seems to be a dumping ground, and DSNY comes sometimes, but not regularly, and trash accumulates quickly. Should I organize a cleanup there or check with someone at DSNY first? It sounds like that might be what's called illegal dumping or a dump out, where folks are putting their waste in the wrong place. It's not allowed. Definitely the best thing to do would be to alert 311 and that customer service email at DSNY first, and make sure that that is on DSNY's radar. And then I think depending on whether it feels manageable, it could be a good place to do a cleanup or some consistent cleanups. But sort of as Angela said, starting small and making sure that volunteers feel like they can make a difference. Sometimes it can feel really overwhelming, especially with really heavy items. But is there anyone else have thoughts on that kind of a dumping site?
I mean, that's how I start. Like anything bigger than anything that I can carry is most likely illegal dumping or some sort of dump out. So 311 now has the 311 app now has the capability that you can take a photo and submit the complaint either for collection or for monitoring, which is super helpful because you no longer have to call the hotline, 311 phone line, and it takes maybe like 5 minutes. I think if this is a pervasive problem, my suggestion, because it's something that I also face in my area, is just to report it every time you see it. The more that you report it, the more people or agencies or your electeds are gonna become aware that this is a problem area. And so they will be more likely to maybe just send more, just at least in my experience, they just become more aware of the issue. And then sometimes they work with sanitation to maybe just make it as part, not necessarily part of the route, but just request for if there are trucks in the area doing the regular pickup to also kind of like watch if there's something happening there so they can also collect the trash. But biggest thing is just use 311, report if you see any piles, and then kind of take it from there.
Thank you. How many people were on this webinar today? We had over 100 registrations. I wasn't tracking exactly throughout, but we had a lot of interest. And as I said, we are making this material available. We recorded it, and we are looking to do a similar presentation in Spanish next month. So spread the word. Okay, I once saw a broken shattered LCD TV. Is that considered hazardous waste to not pick up and to call DSNY? Is there a when in doubt, don't pick it up rule that you follow?
Yeah, if it's a shattered TV and there's bits of glass everywhere, please be as careful as possible. if you want to pick up like the frame of it with all the glass thing going in the ground, that probably still doesn't solve the problem. So just let us know. You can call 311. Let us know that it was there, and then we'll be able to come back and pick it up. Just for safety, because that's a lot of glass. And then if you're leaving bits of glass on the ground after removing as much of the TV as possible, you know, still people could get hurt. Someone's walking with a sandal, it could go through, just to be as careful as possible.
What do you do when you see something in the street that may be somebody's property, like a homeless person's materials?
I can jump in. I would say to, leave that space alone. I have in the past come across, a few unsheltered individuals during the cleanups, and, we just steer clear. Also, a lot of times if you see like a shopping cart that is locked up to a street sign or a signpost and has items in it, just avoid taking any of that out. You don't know if it does, belong to someone. It's unclear if it's trash, and you don't want to potentially find yourself in a dangerous confrontation.
Can a cleanup be a one-person cleanup? And if yes, can the individual receive all the resources and the tools that you mentioned in the webinar? From our perspective, yes, I think as long as you're consistently doing it, we can offer tools. And I believe the answer from DSNY would be yes as well. You would just be going to pick up, one set of tools instead of 10 or 20, but every bit goes a long way. Okay. Okay, I like this. Where can we get the dog pamphlets? We would like to deliver to every person on the block so everyone is educated. I know Jahadi also feels very strongly about dogs, dog species. Marissa, is that something that folks can request from the DSNY resource library or through you?
I think it's on, I'm not sure if it's on the DSNY materials thing, sorry, on our website. You can also just email us at our customer service email. I can at least give you a PDF, or if I can bring a stack out, depending on where you are, something like, we'll somehow get it in your hands. That's easy enough.
All right, I think those were all of the questions in the Q&A. Catherine, did you have any additional ones?
I do. I just really wanted to kind of, while we have the organizers here, ask a couple of questions to our panel to make sure that they are just sharing some additional things about kind of their experience with organizing. So the first question, just a few to end on, is just, could you speak to what was one of the most kind of unexpected things that you came across when you were first starting to organize your cleanups? And then also to just, yeah, like things that you maybe didn't envision being considerations that you had to take, or what that was like getting people involved at the very start of your cleanups.
At least for my personal experience, I'm not super extroverted, so my first impulse was to feel afraid. Kind of like I was very afraid of like people would kind of maybe be mad that I'm cleaning in front of the property, or I'm kind of like getting in their area or something. But those fears were completely unfounded. I think what I learned pleasantly is that people, if you organize a space for them, they will join you, and you will learn that other people are also interested in helping maintain an area. They just don't know how. And so if you take a little bit of time to figure out how to do it and you create a space, more people will join you, and then eventually you'll have enough movement to make a really impact in your community. And that's how I started. Like I mentioned, started small, just cleaning around my block. It's been 2 years now, and I'm part of my community board and all the meetings all the time, complaining about all sorts of things. But that's because I care very deeply about my neighborhood. And what started with just picking up trash in front of my door became this whole movement and knowledge gain as to how multiple city agencies work and elected officials. And as a citizen, you have a lot more power than you think. I know it might be difficult to find the information sometimes, but just stick to it, ask the questions, call 311, Google, and you'll find it, and you'll realize that more people are willing to help that not. So that's my takeaway there.
I definitely agree with Angela. I was not one to, just go out and start randomly talking to people on the street. But as we kind of started getting like a larger group together, I got more comfortable, talking to people. And I think the thing that really helped turn a corner for us was when I put together my first trash cart, a lovely laundry cart, or granny cart, which Gail Brewer loves to reference it as, to carry all of my supplies in. And I put, a cardboard sign that explained, who we were and our Instagram account. So that kind of invited people to, come up to us and engage with us a little bit more, versus when I just had a backpack on that I'd carry the supplies in. It made us look more like a cohesive group of people. I also had, people that drove by in their cars and snapped pictures and, tagged me on Instagram that they saw me, cleaning, or sent up a message and asked, how can we get involved? What are you working on? So I think, branding helps, and it doesn't have to be flashy or expensive. You can get really DIY and crafty, reuse some cardboard, just make it fun. And I would say the most unexpected thing, I did not think when I started doing this 2 years ago that I would get to the point where sanitation has become somewhat of an obsession of mine, and just learning about it. It really is such an interesting and unique department that I don't think people understand as well as they do, like, say, NYPD or FDNY. And I would encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about the history of sanitation in New York City to read a book called Picking Up by Robin Nagel. She is the anthropologist in residence for the Department of Sanitation, and she actually became a sanitation worker and experienced, what it was like to do the job, and then explain it to people, from her insider perspective. And it's really illuminating to kind of understand how complex the system is. I think a lot of people are so quick to say, hey, you're not doing your job, without really fully understanding the scope and regulations involved in that job, and how all the wheels turn and interact. It's really interesting. I've also, if you look, Cheddar News, they have a whole series called NYC Revealed that has a segment on sanitation, as well as a lot of other city agencies. I think it's really interesting to, inform yourself and become more knowledgeable about how these things work. And that also helps you kind of know the better ways to push for different things. Like Angela said, don't be afraid to speak up and, get involved in your community. I've noticed if you are constantly there poking and saying, hey, this area is always dirty, this area is always dirty, this area, eventually they will respond just to shut you up. And at the end of the day, you're solving a problem for your neighborhood. So, it's sometimes you feel like you're being annoying, but unfortunately you kind of have to do that to get anything done.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be annoying. Do it, Captain Complain. Otherwise, nothing is done.
Thank you both. Jahadi, how about for you?
Yes, so one of the few things that I've recognized early on in my cleanups, it was something that Angela mentioned. I think it's something that everybody should take into consideration, is just to make it simple, make it as simple as possible for yourself. Start small, right? I started on my block with a couple kids, and the idea was really to just keep them active and have them doing something positive and constructive on my block. And we then branched out and more people got involved. And then we took on a larger area, and you quickly realize that, you know, you don't want to set too much of a large goal for yourself. That's when the planning starts to kick in. You start to realize, okay, we don't want to be out here 2 hours, right? 3 hours cleaning up. You know, we're working with young people. We have elderly folks outside. So you start to just really learn, you know, this webinar obviously is give you guys a good heads up, but you know, you learn on the go that you don't want to put too much in front of you, because at the end of the day, you know, if you pick up 2 pieces of trash, you've done a great thing, right? So you have to understand that, you know, this is a large issue. You're not going to clean up the whole neighborhood today, you know, and to just, you know, really pace yourself. So sometimes it's easy to feel like, you know, we want to do this whole, you know, 5 blocks and we want to get all of this done today. And, you know, you might be an hour and you gotten through 3 blocks, you know, and you're like, wait a second, like we have a long way more to go. So don't get intimidated, you know, pace yourself. And like I said before, just, you know, make it as much of an enjoyable process as you can. And yeah, those are just some of the things that I've learned and that I would share with everyone.
Great, thank you all so much. And then in closing, I just had one follow-up question. You all have kind of already started to answer it, but I guess it's 2 parts. So one is just, what has been your most effective tool for both maintaining and then also recruiting new volunteers? And then the second part of that is just, what advice would you give to someone that is looking to do a cleanup, whether they're starting out or, you know, trying to expand their efforts?
For me has been consistency. I think when you show up every other week or every month, whatever your schedule might be, people will start noticing and they will approach you and trying to figure out how they can help you. Yeah, at least for me, starting off, just being there every month or every other week and constantly showing my elected officials how this area in particular was a problem is what really worked out for me, and to build volunteers also. Now, some of the volunteers that join some of my groups have become my neighborhood friends. And I think just showing up, you know, like just show up, even if you aren't, even if you are the only person there or your family members, I think that's good enough for other people to see that people care. And I forgot the other question, but I think show up. That's what has worked for me.
I think you answered both, because it was just about like how you best connect and recruit volunteers, and then just any advice that you have. So
yeah, and I second with what Johari was saying, be kind to yourself. I also started like, I'm gonna clean all the Queens, and then suddenly it's like, I have to go back to work to the office. So I had no time to be constantly learning about new areas and meeting new people and recruiting. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna organize in my neighborhood. If I can walk there, if I can make things as easy as possible and still make an impact, then that's good enough for me. You know, you're still putting in the effort, you're still affecting change. Everything accumulates. So it's okay to start small again and be kind to yourself. Just do what you can.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, I started this initiative myself during the pandemic when I was furloughed from my job. And anytime I would see a big pile of trash on 9th Avenue, I'd run home, get bags and gloves, and run out and clean it up. And I soon realized that I am not a one-woman sanitation department that can clean up my neighborhood. But I think it's really good to empower people. I think a lot of people want to help, but I think they're afraid of going out and doing it on their own. So if you, like, I saw there was a question in the chat of being concerned if you pick up a mix of trash and recyclables, will you get fined? You know, when you're doing these cleanups and you have sanitation picking up at a designated area and, you know, they're providing you the bags, they know that you're doing a cleanup, they know what's being collected. So that's, you know, it's fine. If you were to, you know, take these bags back and put them with your apartment garbage, you may have an issue, because then sanitation thinks that it's coming from your building and your building's not properly sorting it. So I wouldn't, hold on. I wouldn't, worry too much about those things. I think just going out and, doing a little bit that you can. I find what's been really helpful for me is creating these cleanup kits. It's just a roll of 2 bags and 2 pairs of gloves with a little guide of, some just really simple best practices. And I have those at various local businesses. So if people are out and about and they see, a trash explosion somewhere and they happen to have time and want to clean it up, they have all the tools they need. I think by providing people with the information and the tools, they're more willing to go out and do it on your own. And then you're just kind of a catalyst for getting people involved, and you don't have to, take it all on yourself.
Yeah, and I would just second what Katie and Angela both said, with being consistent with what you're doing. If this is something that you're passionate about, making sure that you continue to spread the word, and you continue to talk to your neighbors, and you will engage people. The more you engage people, the more you find out that you're not the only one that is tired of the trash on your block, right? The more you find out that there are other people that have similar feelings about the fact that the neighborhood is not clean, and the more people that will want to join your efforts. So the more you do the work, the more people that will want to join you. And I'm just constantly, reaching out to people. People now reach out to me to help them with their cleanups. So, it's something that I think, like Katie and Angela was saying, that, you kind of start out a little apprehensive, like, oh, am I, is this something that I'm going to be kind of, laughed at or whatever, you know what I'm saying, to start. And then you quickly realize that, no, this is a community issue, and most people in the community, really, most people feel that, the community isn't as clean as it should be. So you will have people willing to join you. I don't think that's definitely not something that anyone should be worried about. Just take the initiative to start and have the ability to continue, and you'll be fine.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. I think we are going to wrap it up. If there's any questions that we did not get to, like I said, please reach out via email. We're happy to answer those. On this slide that you can see in front of you, we have the customer service email and both of our websites, as well as the different social media links for all of our panelists here today. Nicole had to jump off a little bit early, but if you live in any of these areas or interested in getting involved in their initiatives, of course, reach out to them and follow them on their social media. And we are happy to field any other requests that you may have and connect you with them as well. An excellent way to keep in touch with the Sanitation Foundation is to subscribe to our newsletter. We send a newsletter out pretty frequently where we're highlighting different opportunities to get involved, not only in our own programming, but also in other community programs as well. And you can find that information on our website, and possibly someone can drop that in the chat as well. And like I said, please keep an eye out for email. We will be sending out the recording and sharing out some of the different links and resources that we highlighted, and that will all, again, live on our website, as well as the application for the microgrants program. Julie, is there anything else?
No, that's fantastic. I just want to thank everyone, Catherine for pulling this together, Angela, Katie, Marissa, Jahadi, and Nicole, who left. And we're just so grateful for all of you that came out, or taking this time out of your night to learn about this, but especially taking time out of your busy lives to really pitch in your neighborhoods. It means a lot to all of us in the city, and it's what's really going to move us forward. So thank you for your time, and have a great night.